She's considerate of other people's feelings.
She's fearful of public speaking.
Fearful of public speaking. So do you understand that when you ask the right questions, you learn a lot more? Now, out of that, don't you think that I have a better basis for building a relationship with her than if I just asked her what she does? Yep. And see, so we need to ask the right questions. You know, I'm going to give you a great example of asking a question. I'm always told, because I do a lot of breakthrough work with people and help them kind of break through some of the stuff that hold them back, I get asked or told all the time for like 10 years, Bob, you need to meet Dr. Phil. And I'm like, you know, okay, whenever it happens. And they're like, no, you need to meet Dr. Phil. And I said, well, that'd be great, but you know, I'm just going to wait for that to happen. I'm not going to make that happen. I can make some calls and do all that stuff, but I'm just going to wait for it to happen. Well, 5 years later, I'm sitting and had heard it 100 times, and I'm sitting there at the backstage at the Academy of Country Music Awards, and I'm sitting there working with a couple of different artists, and all of a sudden Dr. Phil walks by me. And I'm like, well, I always said that I would take the opportunity. So I walk up and I said, hi, I'm Dr. Phil, my name is Bob Donnell, and I've always been told that I should meet you. And he goes, well, why is that, Bob? Hey, that's as good as I can get with Dr. Phil. And I said, because I've always been told that I'm a younger version of you. Not a good way to approach Dr. Phil. The cool thing is Dr. Phil's really a great guy, and what he said to me was, he says, you know, have you ever said something and as you say it, you're like just trying to retract it as quick as you can, but I couldn't do it? And as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh, crap. And he could tell that I was thinking, oh, crap. And he went like this, Bob, it's okay, just own it. Sometimes when you're making a connection, you're going to flub up. And sometimes you just need to have the humanity, because that's really what people are looking for when they're connecting. They want to know that you're just another human being trying to have a human connection with other human beings. They don't want to know about all your shit. They really want to know about who you are. And so as I did that, I said, you know what, you're right. That was really a bonehead mistake. And he goes, and we started laughing, and we had a great conversation after that. But see, the other thing is when you ask the wrong question in the wrong circumstance, there's a sequence of things that it will lead to. Greg's great on sequences. So when you learn about sequences, you can see it all fall together and fit together for yourself. So for example, there was a lady who's very, very well known and very, very successful, and I was having dinner with her one night, and we were just sitting there talking, and it was just her and I thought, okay, what great question can I come up with? See, the best things I've learned have come from my screw-ups. And most of you have felt the same way, right? The best things are from your screw-ups. So I'm talking to her, and I said, you know, if you could get up tomorrow morning and go anywhere in the world, where would you go and who would you take? And she goes, I can go anywhere in the world. See, you got to understand that the question you're asking has to have relevance to the person. It has to have relevance to the person. And so I said, so where are we going? If you can. Didn't work, but we are still very, very dear friends, and she's an amazing person. So very, very cool things like that. How many of you guys would like to have a celebrity sit down at your table or come by and introduce themselves to your friends? Like if you were at a public place. Imagine if you were out there with some prospects and some clients, and you were sitting there at your table, and you could have a celebrity come by and introduce themselves to your prospects. Do you think that raises your relevance at the table? Absolutely, right? Only every time. So one of the things I did was really cool. I had worked at the Staples Center for the Grammys, and I had been backstage, and I was working out in the audience one day before rehearsal. And I see Tim McGraw out in the audience, and he and I are standing about 10 feet away from each other. And all of a sudden, Faith Hill comes up on stage, and she's doing her bit, and she's doing rehearsal. So I'm kind of sitting there watching him, and all of a sudden he says to me, hey, you got a lighter? And I'm thinking, a lighter? This is Staples Center. You know, I'm not supposed to be lighting things on fire in Staples Center. But I'm like, I'll find you one. He goes, okay, great. He goes, so I walk over and I find somebody says, yeah, I've got a lighter. I walk back and I sit here, and all of a sudden Faith is doing her rehearsal, and you know, it's kind of lit in the Staples Center for rehearsal, and she's doing her rehearsal, and all of a sudden he takes out a lighter and he starts doing this. And it was a really cool moment. It was kind of like what you guys just did. It was like, oh, that's cool. And so she's rehearsing, and all of a sudden she sees it, and she starts laughing, and we have this great connection afterwards. We're sitting there talking, or standing there talking, a great connection. So fast forward about 4 years, There's relevance to this. 4 years later, I'm standing in front of a restaurant across the street from Honda Center, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I see Tim McGraw come walking up, and he's in a baseball hat and glasses, but I recognize him, and I go, that's Tim McGraw. I look across the street, and he's actually playing at the Honda Center that night. So that's why he was there, obviously. So I said, okay. So I said, hey, Tim? He said, yeah. I said, can I just stop you for 1 second, because I want to tell you a story about you, Faith, and I. Now, why would I say something like that? I said it out of arm's distance. No, it wasn't said that way. But why would I say something like that? Because you want to capture their attention with something that really means something to them. And so what I did was I talked about the most important thing to him. That's his wife and his family. And he goes, yeah, sure, what's up? So I told him about this story about doing the lighter, and he goes, I remember that. He goes, oh, that's cool. Thanks for bringing that up. I said, no problem. He goes into the restaurant. I wait for my clients and my prospects. We go in. We sit down at the table. And I take out a business card, and I wrote on the back, Tim, you've been a blessing to so many. It's my turn to bless you. Lunch is on me. And so I folded up on the business card, and I handed it to him. Or I handed it to the waitress, and I said, could you take it over to the guy in the baseball hat? She had no idea who he was. Later on, she screamed at me because I didn't tell her. So, but, after he'd left. And so she goes over to him, hands it to him. He looks at it, and he looks across the restaurant and goes, hey, thanks. No problem. When he finishes lunch, he walks up to my table and walks up and says, hey, Bob, it was great seeing you again. You want to introduce me to your friends? My relevancy at that table just went really high. The girls and the guys were really impressed. It was a lot of fun. So sometimes the most effective thing you can do about connecting with people is bring up a subject of relevance and importance to them. And the next most important thing is have the guts to do it. You got to have the guts to do it. See, if you're in this room, let me just tell you this. I host a program called Next Level by Association, and Greg and I have such a great time when we know this. We know that when you're in this room, your life will never be the same. There are people in this room that can literally change your life in the next 10 days. Financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you name it. But see, it's not up to them to find you. It's up to them or you to find them. See, they don't need to go seek you out. You need to go seek them out. And it might be something as simple as somebody sitting next to you that you just don't have a conversation with. Or you think that, well, they're not going to like me. How many of you guys have a problem with approaching people? Be honest. Come on, I know there's way more than that. If you have a problem with approaching people, let me explain why. And I know I've got short time, so I just want to give you a couple things. Here's one of the number one reasons why people have a hard time connecting and really reaching out to other people. Is because what you feel you bring to the table isn't enough. See, if I were to give... Who said that they have a hard time approaching somebody?